Thank you, Jake. Hi, I'm Dr. Scott Hopes, County Administrator for Manatee County. This is my second day on the job. Yesterday afternoon, the situation at the Piney Point phosphogypsum site and stacks began to deteriorate somewhat. The County Commission, at the end of their land use meeting, declared a local state of emergency, which allowed us to activate our emergency operations center. It freed up additional resources, both financial and human capital resources, to move forward. Our partners with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection have been on the site at Piney Point 24 hours a day. In addition to that, they are at the Port of Manatee. We are using a piping system that was used when we dredged out the port, and we are reversing the flow, so we are able to move. Currently, we have about 22,000 gallons a minute that are flowing out of the main retention pond that is relieving the stress. What has been occurring in the past 12 hours is there are a number of small breaches in addition to the what we believe is a significant leak at the bottom of the retention pond, and that is the reason for the emergency permit from DEP to allow HRK to begin moving the process water out of that retention pond. In addition to that, our public safety department, with the direction of the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, we have closed a section of Buckeye Road. In addition to that, we originally had mandated evacuations to the south, southeast, and southwest of the stack at Piney Point. When the sheriff's helicopter did an overflight, they noticed a leak on the north wall. So we began to evacuate north of Piney Point, which is principally the small airport up there. It is somewhat being managed. We have one of the county contractors, Gator, that was able to move in heavy equipment, both front-end loaders, dump trucks, and excavators. Piney Point had on site a sizable storage of fill, so they are actively backing up the support of the southeast wall, and we are prepared to source additional rock. The hope is that with the flow rate coming out of the siphon pipes, that we can rapidly deplete the water and the pressure and avoid a full breach. With that, we'll make ourselves available to questions. Chad is here, as well as Public Safety Director, and anyone else can be available.
You were initially hearing that it might be 11 days to really empty that out to a level where you felt confident it wasn't going to breach. Is that still the
It's
timeline?
probably 10 to 12 days at the current flow rate of 22,000 gallons a minute.
But how many homes are in the evacuation zone, sir?
We estimate 15 to 20 homes.
And at this point, have you guys made contact with all the residents who live in that area where you guys, the deputies, they've gone door to door to make sure they know about the situation?
We have issued emergency alerts over cell phones, telephone, landlines, and spoken to most of the residents.
How many new residents are evacuated? Or are they being kept somewhere?
And also the Sheriff's Department is working with us, and they have folks sandbagging. There's a gas processing plant just to the south, and they're sandbagging it.
What about the residents? Can you tell me about how many have been evacuated and if they're being sheltered or just are they finding housing?
So we opened up our 311 team over at the Emergency Operations Center to answer any of their questions. Mainly, a lot of those questions were centered around if they were in the evacuation zone that we called for. We haven't had any residents request any assistance with Red Cross yet for sheltering.
Do you have a guesstimate of how many residents are evacuated?
I do not at this time.
How dangerous could this be if someone, a resident doesn't evacuate, get in contact with this water or with those chemicals? How dangerous may it be for their safety?
the water, what's interesting about it is a lot of what we're putting back into the port, releasing it, is actually water and silt that was removed from the port when we dredged it. This is processed water. The pH is right around, I think, 5.7, so that's within a safe margin. Obviously you would not prefer to go swimming in it. There's a little bit of ammonia in it, but with regards to, we're not talking about anything with radiation or high levels of heavy metals or anything like that. It's basically metal composition that is on the bottom of the bay today.
Does that include all of the pools or just the main?
No, that does not include all the pools.
Okay.
The pool which is being drained, which is at the greatest risk at this point, is the retention pool that basically has both processed water and the salt water that was removed during the dredging of Pier 12.
If
What
there
needs
was
to happen-
if there was a catastrophic collapse of that, though, would there be concern that other pools that have that more toxic water in it could potentially be affected?
Right now, it appears that the flow rate moving out to the south and the north would not disrupt the other two pools that contain additional solutions.
What needs to happen before residents can get back into their homes safely, and how long do you think it'll take before whatever that needs to happen?
That is a moving target. I think at the flow rate, if they're able to get it down to the level below where the breaches occur to be happening, that we will be able to give the all clear. Right now, this is it is a dynamic situation. It has been changing by the hours. Senator Boyd and Representative Robinson and some of our directors were on the site, and I think we were there until about 1 o'clock today. And the videos that we've seen now are dramatically different than the scene earlier in the day, and that's the reason why we needed to move forward to protect both property, our businesses, and our residents. Fortunately, it is a very low density populated area, and there are a number of businesses, but they are somewhat scattered. We are allowing FedEx to continue to operate. They're kind of on the edge of that evacuation area and on the edge of the Buckeye Road closures. That center serves a number of counties in our region, and we're confident that they would be able to pivot in a short period of time to evacuate their facility.
Long night ahead of us?
A very long night ahead of us.
If there was a breach, what's the game plan? Like, what does the county, what does the state do? How do you react to that? We're talking about a full breach.
If we had a full breach, our number one concern would be two things: Gulfstream, the gas system service there on the southeastern corner, and then the residential areas. We do have full representation of the Florida Department of Emergency Management. Our emergency management team, Hillsborough County is where we store our the state's search and rescue apparatus for this region. That would come in, and that would be our first concern, is getting to those residential areas in that evacuation zone.
I'm just trying to picture this. Are we talking about like ankle deep water, or it's hard to say?
Well, they're releasing 22,000 gallons per minute, but the retention area is holding somewhere around 700 million gallons to 800 million gallons. There would be two types of spread. There would be that initial sheet of a spread. Currently, everything that's coming out is flowing the way it was intended. It's moving to the north and then moving the pathway through. So while the majority of the offloading is going through the pipes going to the port, what is now leaching out or leaking out is following the path that was projected. So it's controlled at this point. And then fortunately, there are a number of areas around it that have borrow pits, which will be able to take a considerable amount of it. But obviously, we do not want people in that area should that full breach occur.
You think it's under control at this point, you believe? And I know you can't predict when it's going to be done, but are things moving in the right direction?
All the predicted models of the flow of any water escaping is currently going in the direction that was projected, and it's being channeled and managed
So you're feeling good about at least where this is heading?
at the moment.
And you said 10 to 12 days out before you get this installed. Is that 10 to 12 days before residents are back in homes, or are they talking days, weeks?
It's a moving target. I would say if we are only dealing with the current situation, that they should be able to offload a majority of the water in that 177 acre area within 10 to 12 days, and then it would be safe. The other structures are far more stable at the moment. This happens to be the highest one, and it's one that has been perhaps the least stable. And keep in mind, you're rapidly moving both volume and mass out of this very, very large swimming pool that is full of ducks, 18, 20-inch snook. It's maintaining substantial wildlife in it. But as you move that out, these structures that have been there, in a less stable environment for 20 years, all of a sudden everything's changing. And that's why we had to rapidly move to ensure the safety of our businesses and our residents.
So how worried are you about those other two ponds in the area?
I have seen enough, and I think DEP has seen enough, that this cycle will result in a permanent solution. And as soon as this pond is fully evacuated and dealt with, as long as I'm here and this commission is in place, prior commissions tried to solve this. Represented when Senator Boyd was in the House, he tried to address it, and we are going to bring this to resolution, and we are not going to let up until this entire area is void of this prior waste.
And just so I'm clear, you mentioned this is water from a dredge project in the port a couple of years ago. That's what's in this detention pond, and that's what you're putting right back in.
Principally, when DEP acquired, this was all part of the Mulberry phosphate. I think it was a bankruptcy, and 3 properties were acquired. And back in early 2000, DEP had pretty much emptied out a good portion of it. The property was subsequently sold, and it ended up being an ideal opportunity for Manatee County when we dredged. So the majority of what is in the process area is both silt from the bottom of Port Manatee and salt water from that dredging process.
A lot of residents are concerned and frustrated because this is the first time there's been a breach here, and they're living here kind of with this concern about the mine constantly. How can you assure them that once this is drained, that it's going to be dealt with in control, and they don't have to live here thinking, when's it going to break?
From my understanding, the appropriate process is once it is drained, those liners, will be dealt with. It should be filled and it should be capped so rainwater can't get back in there.
There's a lot of question about funding for long-term solutions. The county just committed some funding and is seeking funding from the state. How committed are you guys to that now that this is happening?
Well, I think, and Senator Boyd can address it, I believe we now have the support of the legislature and the State Department of Environmental Protection to address this. They have mobilized all their forces quickly. They worked with us this afternoon, both in Tallahassee and those folks on the ground to move this forward, and the time has come. And I can understand why perhaps in the past, because when I was given calculations of how much dirt and fill and clay it would take, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars.
In talking with residents today, a lot of them are frustrated that it has gotten to this point and that they are at the point of evacuation. What has taken so long, and why are we here?
This is my second day on the job. So I will tell you that we have gotten the support from both our legislative delegation locally, as well as this Board of County Commissioners that have been committed to whatever solutions it takes to rectify the situation. The windshield is a lot better visibility than the rear view mirror, and I think where we are today is the start of an effort which will bring resolution to the residents of this area and to Manatee County and the entire Tampa Bay community.
Is there someone that should be held accountable? There has to be someone that has to be taken.
That's not for us tonight. Keep in mind, we don't own that property. The state DEP is overseeing this process. We have been making our resources available, and we're partnering with them. And our focus from county government's perspective, in addition to demanding that we get attention and action on this, which we've gotten. We have been very satisfied with the partnership that we've gotten from the state, from the governor's office, from the Secretary of DEP. And so now it's following through with that with both the owners of the property, as well as the state, to move this forward and bring it to a final resolution.
Hey, guys, we have time for 2 more questions, so we can take 2 more to Alejandro, then we can do 1 more, okay?
Any learning point that you guys took away from 2011 that is helping you guys and kind of really get to that resolution that you're speaking of?
I wasn't here in 2011. I've read a lot, but there are people that were here if you want to address it.
Can we hear from someone from the state about
I don't. No, we just had state emergency management is here now.
Let me just say, if I could, Senator Boyd and Representative Robinson, we're keenly aware of the situation. We've been working hard on it. It's a legislative priority for the county commission that we deal with that this year. Sadly, we're at a point where there is a problem, but this has been on the agenda for us to work on in conjunction in Tallahassee with them. We're seeking funding prior to tonight for some work that needs to be done there to fix, hopefully fix forever the problem. And we've been working on that in Tallahassee pretty diligently. There's funds available for emergency work that needs to be done. What I'm really gratified by is DEP, Department of Emergency Management, along with our colleagues at the County Commission, have been working hand in glove since it started, and they have a plan. They're on top of it. It's not a great situation, obviously, that we're in tonight, but from our perspective, and I'll let Representative Robinson speak, he and I are on top of it from a funding point in Tallahassee and from just how necessary it is to get this accomplished. So we tried, as Administrator Hope said, several years back to do it, and we just couldn't get it done then. But I think if nothing illuminates the problem and the need to do this perhaps more than tonight, and I'm sorry we're here for that, but I know we're going to work hard to come up with solutions and get the funding that we need to finally fix this. Representative Robinson may want to say something.
I mean, obviously, our top priority is getting through this emerging problem, this instant problem, this emergency that we have today, and we'll get the money. We'll solve the problem. This has been our top legislative delegation priority for at least a year now. And I said this to the press a couple days ago. This quarter-century debate on what to do with this property needs to come to an end, and it's frustrating to all of us and to the residents. And if there's only one silver lining with this, hopefully everyone can realize now this has got to end. We have got to stop and clean this property up. I don't care if it's private property. I don't care if it's been through bankruptcy and foreclosure. Now this property has to be finally cleaned up so we can get this off the minds of our residents. And we're committed to be doing that.
One more question we're getting directly from some of the folks that live in this area. They're asking about the drinking water, the groundwater supply. A lot of them have well water. Is there any concern in it that being monitored at all?
There's not at the current time. If there was a boil water, a notice, or anything like that, we would push that out in the same message we did as the evacuation.
Is there any testing of the groundwater?
DEP has been testing water samples all over the area all for the past 2 days.
We're getting 22,000 gallons a minute are being pulled out, but there's a total of how many gallons in?
I think probably around 700 million.
Sorry, just to confirm, because of the EPA website says that one of the materials is radium, there's no radiation in
You mean radium 226? Yeah, there's not a substantial level of it.
So is the water contaminated?
Pardon me?
Is it contaminated water?
I wouldn't drink it. It's basically a combination of dredge from the bottom of the bay and the port and salt water.
All right, thank you guys so much for coming, and we'll provide further updates as soon as they become available, okay? Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks. No, nice job.
Did Reggie get introduced? You're so tall.
Good job. You and Noah.
All right. Had to raise it.